So as you can imagine, if you're doing a book on the urban legends of church history, obviously the Roman Catholic Church is going to come up quite a bit.
I know in your book you've mentioned the Roman Catholic Church. Could you talk about what you've studied with regards to history of the Roman Catholic Church and clarify one or two urban legends related to Catholicism that you've uncovered?
Yeah, as a conservative Protestant church historian, I'm often asked, what is my opinion about the Roman Catholic Church? And the first question I ask is, where, when, and what? That is, where in the world are you talking about the Roman Catholic Church? Because it's very diverse everywhere you look. And then if you go back through history, the Roman Church in the 2nd century is very different than the Roman Church in the 6th, which is very different than the late medieval Roman Church, which is very different than the modern Roman Catholic Church. And then the other question is what issue? With regard to the Trinity and the deity and humanity of Christ and his death and resurrection and those kinds of things, they've preserved the classic Christian faith for 2,000 years. So as you can imagine, if you're doing a book on the urban legends of church history, obviously the Roman Catholic Church is going to come up quite a bit. And there are certain historical questions that divide especially Protestants and Roman Catholics, as well as Roman Catholics and Eastern Orthodox. And so we highlight, I would say probably half of our urban legends have to do with differences between the Roman and Catholic Church and the Protestant tradition. So one of the bigger ones that always comes up in the course of theological studies is, why do we have these 66 books in the Bible? The question of the canon. And so one of the urban legends that we deal with early on is that some pope or some church council selected the books of the New Testament, that there was some vote, or maybe Constantine did it. And that is a very, very common view. It's usually advanced oftentimes by Roman Catholic apologists that say, look, you Protestants can't believe in sola scriptura, that all scripture is all we need for theology, when the Roman Catholic Church is the church that gave you the Bible, right? So you can't reject the authority of the church and then accept, the Bible that they gave to you by voting on it or selecting the canon. When the fact is, nobody ever selected the canon of the New Testament or the Old Testament. There was no council that voted on it. It's not like they had dozens and dozens of options and they picked out this canon and established it sometime in history. The reality is, from the year 100 on, we had the vast majority of the Old and New Testament books were solidified, simply received and passed forward and treated as authoritative. The whole history of the canon, which we unpack, both for the Old as well as the New Testament, but specifically the New Testament, is really the question of 5 books that some people in some places for a short time accepted as inspired scripture that they shouldn't have. They are Christian writings, but not inspired. And then on the other hand, books that are inspired and should be included that some people were doubting for a short time. And so that's the less exciting history, is really quibbling over about 5 books in each category. And so it took a couple centuries to finally work out some of those details. And by the 4th century, we have a New Testament as we have it. But as far as a voting on it, or some pope or some council of bishops or something selecting the books of the canon and canonizing scripture, that just never happened.